Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome back to our very first spring edition of syracuse.com and SOS Spotlight Athlete of the Week. Today, we start out the spring session of our series with Westhill girls lacrosse goalie Francesca Argentieri. Francesca is one of the best goalies in Section 3. She's going to Northwestern to play collegiately after her senior is over. We'll get to that in a minute, but thank you for joining us
Thank you
on
for
this day.
asking me.
We'll just start. Basically, spring is the best of seasons because it's just at some point it'll be warmer, it'll be sunny. You get out there, you
Mhm.
run around. So I know we're not quite there yet, but we are coming out of winter. What are your just basic emotions as far as being able to jump into this spring season?
Yeah, I think it's very exciting. Our first couple games were very exciting. We love getting out there. We did a lot of off-season work, whether that be in the weight room, on the field, running through plays, running through, just defensive sets. So it's really exciting to just be on the field, really putting all of our work, to use and really seeing what we can do with it.
Now, in case you need a little bit extra motivation, anybody who follows West Hill knows last year they made the sectional finals for the first time ever in girls lacrosse. They didn't win, but they're coming back this year with another strong team, and it's a motivation. And Francesca was saying earlier how that's been something they've kept in their minds the past, 350 days or 365 days. Tell us a little bit about how you remember last year. Is it something that's a big motivation for you this spring?
Yeah, I think as a team, we had a very young team. We had a lot of girls whose primary sport was not lacrosse, but as you know, West Hill produced a lot of 3-sport athletes, 2-sport athletes. So we had a big building year. And I think, for us, we peaked at the right time. We were ready by sectionals, and that's how we want to be every year. But it's definitely a chip on our shoulder. We made it to the sectional finals, and that was really exciting. But you never just want to make it there. You want to be able to win it and say you won it. And I think for us this year, we have a younger team, but we have a lot of seniors, and we have a lot of girls that came back from last year and know how it feels to walk off that field without a medal. And I think that's something we keep with us every day, and we push each other every day. And we even said it today, today was a hard practice, and we pushed and we conditioned, and we were all tired by the end, but we got better. And we know that if we want to win that sectional championship, that's how it has to be every day.
Well, that's a good point. I was going to ask, is one of the team's veterans, did you gather the rest of your teammates either already or will you or have you and said, look, remember last year, remember how great that was? A little bit more when we get that done. Is that something that needs to be, pointed out again, highlighted exactly what you're playing for this year?
Yeah, and I think we do talk about that quite often. We don't go back into details about that game. That was a different team. That's a different year. And we don't really hold on to it too tight, but we do look at it. And, when we have a really good day, we say, that's a step towards the sectional championship. That's what we want. And when we need to refocus, we say, hey, listen, this is not what a sectional champion team looks like. And I think, we use that as motivation, but we also use it as our discipline and how we run as a team. We're never afraid to make mistakes, but we want to go in there and hustle. And we know that in order to get there, we have to play in those big games. And I think for us as a team, we know what we can do and we know it's possible. And getting there last year, you see that it's not that we're going to stop at the semifinals every year, but this year it's really, okay, we've gotten there before, let's finish it.
Well, you mentioned it being a process, and that's why West Hill plays such a great schedule. Their first two games against West Jenny and Beeville, two very good teams. You lost both, but in a month and a half from now, when you're in the playoffs, hopefully you look back and take something from those games. They're not in your class, so you won't play in the playoffs. What is it that you can take from losing your first couple games so early in the season? It kind of carries you through the season and helps once you get in the stretch run to the playoffs.
Yeah, our Coach Elmer and Coach Hamilton do a really good job of making sure that we're not as concerned about what the final score is, but what we can get out of those games. So clearly, like I said earlier, going into West Jenny, we had no scrimmages. That was our first look at a live game. And I think you come out of that against a very good team, and we didn't get the upper hand in overtime and we didn't get that win. But I think when you look at games like that, or you look at the Beevilles, you're playing top teams in the country, top teams in the area. And the only way to get better is to play the best. And I think for us, we don't really worry about what our record is at the end of the year. Those two losses really don't hurt us, but more of if we don't learn from those losses, that's going to hurt us. And I think that's what we kind of focus on. We're not worried about the final score. Sure, would we have loved to go out and win 2 games straight against big competition? Of course, you never want to lose, but I think you learn more from the losses than you do the wins.
Well, Francesca comes from a lacrosse family, as is the case of many great lacrosse players around here. Her older brother and sister either played or are playing collegiately, which is good for her. But it was kind of bad because when she was younger in the backyard, they would just toss her a net and take shots on her. Now they were both older, so their shots, they were real shots, and that's how she got indoctrinated to goaltending. Now, what do you remember about those days? And apparently, it didn't scare you off because here you are, but. Do you think back to those days and how they just, taught you hard lessons right away?
Yeah, I think for me personally, at that time, I was never thinking, oh my gosh, these shots are going to get me to be a really great player by the time I'm a senior, but really just being able to spend time with my siblings and playing the sport that we grew up watching our older cousins play and grew up with us around us with the youth leagues and being able to watch Westhill when we were little as well. I think being able to just go out and play, whether it was in goal or whether it was on the field, whatever it may be with my siblings, it was just always like getting that opportunity and taking that opportunity and running with it.
Well, I know as a younger sibling, you never want to show weakness, especially when your older siblings are challenging you. But, you are a younger, smaller kid and they're whipping crossballs at you. Did you ever get hurt? And did you ever just think about, all right, I'm out of here. I'm not doing the goal thing anymore.
Yeah, they would tell you too. There was definitely times where I was like, okay, I'm done for the day. And I might have just walked out. But I think it was more of like, as long as I came back the next day and as long as I came back and played the next couple of days or whatever it may be, like we never really worried about it. We were very close and we got over it. Clearly they're both defenders, so their shots may not have been the most perfect, but I learned from that. I don't mind bruises now. I never will anymore. So I guess I'll give them the credit for that.
Well, obviously you're a great athlete. As the years progressed, you probably could have, played out a different position, scored, or like scoring, but clearly goaltending stuck with you through the years. Do you remember how old you were when you caught that bug and why, it stuck so long? You never thought, let's try, playing attack every now and then.
Yeah. I think when you're in like 3rd and 4th grade, there's always the rule everyone has to play goalie. And I think the difference with me was I wanted to, and I would almost fight the coaches. I'd be like, just let me play every game. This girl doesn't even want to like play, But I think for me, I just loved the adrenaline of making a save. And I'm always been very vocal. I've always been very loud. And I think like being able to be a leader in that aspect and kind of anchoring down a defense, I always just found interest in. And I think once you get to like those 4th and 5th and 6th grade and you get to, play real games or you're getting close to modified and kind of starting club lacrosse, I think for me, when I got to be in more competitive spots and was able to get better at goal, it drove me. Like I loved it. And I loved just the idea of getting better at that position.
Well, clearly the hard work in the years have paid off. As we spoke of, you've been a starter on Westhill for a few years, emerged as one of the best goalies in the region, much less New York State. You're going to Northwestern, which is a powerhouse Division I team. You clearly had many choices probably when you were considering your college options. What was it about Northwestern that said, this is the one for me?
Yeah, as you know, the Shanley girls, Hannah Johnson, who's from Beeville, they're there and I'm very close with the 3 of them. So I think that was something that helped me a lot during the recruiting process with Northwestern. I was able to talk to them, ask them questions, get honest answers. But I also think personally, I'm going to school for broadcast journalism. Northwestern had a great program, but above all, when I talked to the coaches, when I went to the camp, when I met the team, it was just such a great environment. And I think I knew it was my fit from the very start. The coaches, they really care about you and they really want you to get better. And it helps and it makes you want to get better as well. And I also think, the players, when you're there and they're working camps, they're not even playing with you, but when they're vocal and when they're encouraging and friendly, I think it just makes a very great atmosphere for a recruit. And I was lucky enough to get an offer from them and it just worked out well. And even the past weekend, I got to go see the girls play at UPenn. And even now I'm already committed. No one has to, really be welcoming just yet, but those girls are awesome, you know, running up, giving me hugs. The coaches are awesome. I love being able to see them. So it's just such a supportive community, and I can't wait to be a part of it next year.
Well, you're a player who has probably been a few years since you've, if ever, if not played much or sat on the bench or been a backup. Northwestern, of course, has a ton of talent, and there's only one goalie at a time. What do you think realistic expectations are for you, you know, coming in right away and playing, or in your mind, you sort of figure that it might be a little bit before, you know, you get that opportunity?
Yeah, I think the minute I step on campus, I'm going to be fighting for a starting spot, whether it's realistic or not. I think that's how I am as a player. You know, if I can't get that spot, I'm going to be pushing to make that starter better, or pushing to make my teammates better. But above all, just being able to learn the ropes, learn the defense, learn how the team works together, how they play together. And, you know, when my time comes, I'll be ready for it. But I'm not one to get down if I'm not playing. I think I'll be able to find a way to make a different impact, whether that be, you know, helping other defenders or helping other goalies or just learning from them. But I think above all, it's most important to have your team ready, not just one player. So I think if I can push people from the background until it's my turn, that's what I'm going to do.
Now, we opened talking about how fun the spring season is, but the downside of the spring season is it just seems to go so quickly. I mean, you just get out in the field, you know, April's over, so you're into May, then, you know, end of May, you're in the playoffs, and then, you know, you either win or lose. And this is your last year. You've been at Westhill doing athletics for a long time. And this is your last handful of weeks, handful of games. So I know big picture, you're focused on perhaps getting a different outcome than last year. But personally, you know, every practice is almost, you know, one less that you'll have to the end. Every game, that's just one less to the end. How do you balance the emotions of just, you know, winding up a strong personal career at Westhill versus keeping in mind that, you know, you also have a chance to win a championship at the end of this season?
Yeah. There's 8 of us seniors, I'm pretty sure. Me and Grace Winkler, who's another senior, you know, we're co-captains. And I think I've played with her this is our 4th year on varsity together. And I played with, you know, like Gianna Zerl, it's our 5th year together. And I think you've been here for so long and you've gone through it and you've, you know, seen how a season can end. And I think above all, there's 8 of us who have gone through this program, gone through Westhill for 12 plus years, you know, played it together since we were youth. And I think, you know, that's more important. We call ourselves a family as a whole, you know, as our whole team, but being able to play with these girls, a lot of them are going and playing college at different places, and I won't play with them again at a competitive level after this year. So I think, you know, making the most of that and making sure every time we step out on the field, we're having fun and we're making memories and we're making it something that we can look back on and say, you know what, we want to win this sectional championship. Don't get me wrong. But if we don't, we want to be able to look back and say, you know what, that practice was the best. I got to play with my best friends. I got to play with people who I've grown up with, who have been by my side through it all. And I think that's more important at the end of the day. It's high school lacrosse, it's high school sports, you know, you're put your whole heart into them. But at the end of the day, they're your teammates and they're your best friends. So I think that's more important than anything.
You've been on the varsity since the 8th grade. You've been a starter since your freshman year. I'm sure at the time you didn't think it would go by as quickly as it did. When you look back, did you feel like it went by in a blink?
Yeah, I think definitely, you know, the first couple of years are such a blur. You're at such a young age. I think my 8th grade year, kind of like I said, you know, you're just learning the ropes and you're just enjoying the people around you. And then in a blink of an eye, you're at your senior year. And I think clearly COVID didn't help that, you know, losing that sophomore year, but it goes by so fast. Everyone says like, enjoy it, but you really don't realize how fast it goes by until you're at the end of another season. And I think that's kind of how it was last year. Like, wow, I'm at the end of my junior season. Next year is my last year. How did I get through these 4 years? And I think, you know, like everyone says, time flies when you're having fun. And I think that's just how lacrosse has always been for me. Always enjoying it in the moment, but never really realizing how fast it will go by.
Well, you do it a few more weeks, so that's the good news. And it seems like you've got the type of team that's going to, you know, take advantage of your opportunities for success. So that's, again, something to look forward to. We will let you get back to the rest of your day there, but we appreciate you joining us today. Good luck.
Thank you for having me on.
And everybody out there, thanks for joining us today. And we'll be back next week with another Syracuse.com SOS Spotlight of the Week. Have a good week, everybody.